They tried to throw me out of my own home, not because I broke any rules, not because I caused a scene, but because they thought I didn't belong. If you've ever been judged by how you look instead of who you are, take a second to like this video. And if you're new here, subscribe, because stories like this matter. It was supposed to be a beautiful afternoon. The Hampton estate shimmered under golden sunlight. White tents stood across perfectly trimmed lawns. Crystal glasses caught the light. Guests in tailored suits and designer dresses moved between rose gardens and marble fountains, laughing softly, holding champagne, congratulating the bride and groom. I arrived quietly. No announcement, no entourage, no attention, just me, walking through iron gates my family had commissioned almost a century ago. I wore a simple navy dress, low heels, hair pulled back, no jewelry except my grandmother's ring. I had come alone, carrying nothing but a leather briefcase and 20 years of patience. I hadn't planned on staying long. I only wanted to walk the property, to stand near the reflecting pool my grandfather installed in 1952, to touch the oak tree where my father carved his initials as a teenager, to feel the place one last time before I reclaimed it. But the moment I stepped onto the terrace, everything changed. Security removed this woman immediately. The voice cut through the music like glass. Victoria Bradford stood near the center of the reception. Cartier watch glinting in the sun, lips curled in disgust. She gestured at me as if I were something she'd found on her shoe. I will not have our family's reputation destroyed by some crasher looking for handouts. I stopped walking, not because I was afraid, because I knew exactly what was happening. Ma'am, I said calmly, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? She stepped closer, lowering her voice into something sharp and poisonous. Listen carefully. This estate is worth $30 million. These guests represent old American families. You do not belong here. 2 security guards began moving toward me. I nodded politely. Of course, I said, as you wish. Victoria smiled, already tasting victory. But instead of walking toward the exit, I turned and began strolling down the garden path. Not randomly, precisely. I avoided the loose stone near the rose bushes, took the shortcut past the carriage house, stepped around the sprinkler line. Without looking down, the staff noticed. The catering manager froze mid-sentence. A groundskeeper removed his cap as I passed. Servers began whispering. Victoria sensed it. Why is everyone acting so strange? She muttered. Because they remembered, or at least parts of them did. I paused beside the reflecting pool. My grandfather had built it after returning from the war. The brass Washington nameplate had been removed 20 years ago, but I still knew exactly where it had been mounted. An elderly valet approached hesitantly. Miss Angela? He whispered. Is that really you? Victoria spun around. Do you know this person? The man swallowed. She used to come here. A long time ago. I smiled gently. Hello, Thomas. His eyes filled with tears. Your father would be so proud. Victoria stepped between us. That's enough. Get back to work. She grabbed his arm like he was property. I watched without reacting. Staff across the lawn began recognizing me. Whispers spread. Faces changed. Fear replaced confusion. Victoria pointed at me again. She's making everyone uncomfortable. Remove her now. Security approached. Ma'am, you'll need to come with us. I stood slowly. As we walked, guests began staring openly. Some whispered. Some laughed. Some judged. Good riddance, someone muttered. These people have no respect for boundaries. At the gate, I paused. I turned back and memorized faces. Who mocked, who stayed silent, who looked ashamed. Victoria noticed. What are you staring at? Just appreciating the gathering. I replied. She scoffed. Guests applauded as I stepped outside. Victory in their minds. But instead of leaving, I crossed the street to my car, opened the trunk, retrieved my briefcase, and walked back. Victoria nearly screamed. She's back. I ignored her. I sat at an empty reception table and opened my documents, property deeds, tax records, inheritance files. A server approached hesitantly. I asked for water. Victoria intercepted. No one serves her. Guests gathered in small groups, their cruelty growing bolder. She's probably planning to sue, trying to intimidate us with fake papers. This is what entitlement looks like. I continued reading, taking notes, timing everything. If you're still watching right now, comment truth below, because the moment that comes next changes everything. Victoria finally marched over. What exactly do you think you're doing? Documenting. Documenting what? Behavior. She laughed. You have no idea what real power looks like. Just then, a new voice cut through the noise. Angela? A man approached from the parking area. Detective Ray Coleman. His face drained of color. You, he whispered. What are you doing here? Victoria turned. You know her? Ray swallowed. Yes. Well, who is she? Ray hesitated, then said quietly, She's someone you don't want to mess with. Victoria laughed. She's trespassing. Ray removed his hat. Mrs. Bradford, who holds a deed to this property? The Bradford family, she snapped. Ray pulled out his phone. Nassau County records are public. He scrolled, then froze. Original owner, James Washington, 1924. Victoria waved dismissively. That's ancient history. Ray continued. Transferred through inheritance to Angela Washington. Silence crashed over the lawn. That's impossible, someone whispered. Ray made a call, confirmed, then spoke slowly. Miss Washington has paid property taxes on this estate for 22 years. Victoria staggered. That's not possible. I opened my briefcase, laid documents on the table. Deeds, surveys, trust records. Ray examined them. These are legitimate. Thomas stepped forward. Her family built this place. Victoria screamed. You're fired? I looked at Thomas. He works for me. Another shockwave. Ray nodded. Groundskeeper salaries paid by my trust. Maintenance paid by my trust. Everything. Victoria collapsed into a chair. You've been living on my property without permission, I said quietly. Her lawyer arrived moments later. Stopped cold when he saw me. Judge Washington. That's when it finally landed. Ray spoke clearly. United States District Court, Eastern District of New York. Guests gasped. Champagne shattered on stone. Victoria whispered, You're a judge. I nodded. A federal judge. Lifetime appointment. Victoria's son approached, his voice shaking. 3 years ago, I stood before a court on money laundering charges. She gave me mercy instead of prison. The crowd stared. She saved my life. He handed me the microphone. I spoke calmly. I came here to reclaim my family's property. Victoria trembled. But I also came to observe how people treat those they believe have no power. I looked around. Justice isn't loud. It doesn't arrive screaming. It arrived prepared. I set conditions. Public apologies. Scholarships. Restoration of my family's legacy. Voluntary cooperation with federal investigators. Victoria agreed to everything, because now she understood. Real power isn't cruelty. It's restraint. I left quietly. No celebration. No victory lap. Just truth restored. And before you go, remember this. Never judge someone by how quietly they enter a room. Some people don't announce power. They carry it. If this story stayed with you, subscribe for more real stories about dignity, justice, and strength. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Angela's place?